Welcome to the Scandinavian Mind podcast. I'm Conrad Olsson, founder and editor-in-chief of Scandinavian Mind. Today we are revisiting our Water Innovation Talks program from the Swedish pavilion at the Expo 2020 Dubai. We are going to take a look at how businesses and NGOs can work together to build a better future. This event happened a couple of weeks ago, and we will be hearing from BE WTR, a new Swiss-Swedish startup and their quest to eliminate single-use plastic bottles. We will also be hearing from an NGO from the beautiful Stockholm archipelago. Initiativ UTÖ is an organization that aims to restore the Baltic Sea using wetlands. We will also hear these two organizations talk about how they are working together. One for-profit company eliminating single-use plastic bottles, and one not-for-profit trying to save the Baltic Sea. In a panel at the end of this program, we will talk about what we all can do to foster new innovations, establish new alliances, and co-create for a better planet. This program is a part of Changemakers, a series of panel talks and live interviews that we at Scandinavian Mind produce in collaboration with the Swedish participation at Expo 2020 Dubai. Please follow our newsletter to stay updated on past and upcoming talks and events. Visit scandinavianmind.com/newsletter. And now, for our first segment, we'll hear from BE WTR and their founder Mike Hecker, who held a special keynote at the event talking about innovating the bottled water industry.
So we are, as Conrad said, we are Swiss-based, but from Swedish origins. We are based in Lausanne. We are a startup that is trying to innovate in creating a new water standard, eliminating plastic and single-use bottles. We are already quite well known in the Swiss market, in the Nordic market, and we have quite some success with Michelin star restaurants. So we start seeing that the world is evolving from single-use plastic, from transport to systems like ours. In a nutshell, what we are trying to do is solve one big problem, is the size of the bottled water industry, which is creating a huge pollution in terms of carbon footprint emission. There is over 100 billion CO2 emitted every year thanks to the bottled water industry, and that's one problem we try to solve. The other problem that we are trying to solve is that when you go to places like here in Dubai, where a lot of tourists are coming, premium hospitality, people expect to see a fantastic dish with a fantastic brand of water. And unfortunately, that means bringing water today from Europe, even from Fiji, and this is not sustainable.
That was Mike Hecker, founder of BE WTR. Also present at the Water Innovation Talks was Robert Cederlund, co-founder of Initiativ UTÖ. Robert talked about their quest to restore the Baltic Sea using wetlands.
In the Baltic Sea is a very little island in the archipelago called UTÖ, and that's where I'm from. I live there, and together 4 residents, me, myself, Thomas, and 2 others, we founded Initiativ UTÖ because we wanted to do something to regain the balance of this polluted Baltic Sea. We wanted to restart. We wanted to restore and restart and help nature on its way to act normal again. We wanted to make the fish come back. We wanted to make the water cleaner, and we wanted to help the society, because at this little island where we live and where the little village is, that if the water is polluted and there's no fish, nobody wants to come there, and that means that the school has to close, the little store has to close, and the restaurants have to close, and the island shuts down. So we make wetlands, and I'm not sure if everybody of you know here what a wetland is, but a wetland is a field. It's an area where we sort of make a wall. We stop the water from flooding out into the Baltic Sea. So it stops there and capture the water, so that when the water has stopped and sort of dropped its nitrogen and phosphorus, it's much cleaner, which means that when it reaches the Baltic Sea, the levels are much lower.
That was Robert Cederlund, co-founder of Initiativ UTÖ. We finished the event at the Swedish pavilion at the World Expo 2020 Dubai with a conversation between Emilia Molin, managing director at BE WTR, and Robert Cederlund, co-founder of Initiativ UTÖ, talking about how water NGOs and businesses can work together to save the planet and save our oceans. Here now, our conversation from Water Innovation Talks. Welcome everybody to Water Innovation Talks, the inaugural event here at Water Week at the Swedish Pavilion. This program is part of Changemakers, a series of panel talks and live interviews that we at Scandinavian Mind produce in collaboration with the Swedish participation at Expo 2020 Dubai. We believe that every product and service, every brand and organization that's being exhibited in the Swedish Pavilion is in fact a change maker. All right, I thought we'd take a moment to reflect on what we have just heard here, both from first Mike Hecker from BE WTR, but also from Robert and his work with Initiativ UTÖ. And what's fascinating here is the fact that you guys are working together. Two organizations, one for-profit and one not-for-profit. So Emilia, I thought I'd start with you as the managing director of BE WTR in the Nordics. You have made it a part of your business to try and help the planet in various ways. Can you just give me an overview of how you set this up in your company, in the various ways you are doing it?
I sort of need to kidnap your presentation here a bit, your panel, because I want to start with the moment that I fell in love with BE WTR. I was actually working in an international NGO, working with children in war. It's called War Child. It's one of the biggest organizations in the Netherlands. And we help children in war with psychosocial support, safety, and education. But after 4 years with that amazing organization, I felt that it's 5 to 12 if we want to save the planet. And I think that companies have a huge responsibility in that. We all need to do what we can to make a positive change in the world. So when I met Mike and I heard about this amazing concept of BE WTR, I fell in love, and here I am. And I think it's truly great to be part of something where sustainability is one of the pillars in the core of the company. And I'm also very happy that we have such a good collaboration. Yeah. You just mentioned KTH before. They are not that important, right? No. We are more important. This collaboration.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but I think it's super important, and right. It gives so much, not only to the planet, but also in building an organizational culture, in motivate your employees, in making a change for the world. So there are only positive sides about it. I sort of forgot your question.
No, it's great, and I love the personal touch on it. and moving from there is a great pivot into what BE WTR actually does as a company. Because when you came, there were some initiatives already set in place. For instance, the 1% pledge.
Yes.
Can you talk about that and what that means for BE WTR?
First of all, Mike before mentioned or talked about the 1% for the Planet Pledge. That is a platform founded by the amazing Patagonia founder. And it means that you give 1% of your total revenue to sustainable projects. And of course, we have chosen to give our 1% to water-related projects, yes.
Yes, and that brings us to Initiativ UTÖ.
Yeah.
So why have you decided to work with Initiativ UTÖ? What's the decision process behind that?
First of all, it's a very serious project. And I think you are changing, even though you're very small, you have a huge impact. And you also are very passion-driven, as are we. And I think with your methods, it's very impressive, and we want to be part of that, because I also think it's very important when you go for an engagement as a company, it's important to choose something that's true to your heart and where you can also make an impact. And that's what you guys are so generous in opening up for us.
We're going to get back to how you guys work together and how you engage in Initiativ UTÖ, which I think is really interesting. But Robert, I want to bring you into the conversation here. So we just got this wonderful presentation of the wetlands project in Stockholm Archipelago, and as you mentioned, maybe not everyone knows what a wetland is, but it's also what you are doing is very passionate driven. You are a group of locals at this island in the Stockholm Archipelago decided to do something about this problem, but in doing so you also need resources, and you've been doing this for several years now, and I know that getting partners, getting resources is key part of doing what you need to do. So can you talk about how important that is and how important it is to get support from the business community?
Oh, it's crucial, I would say. It's without your support and the support from other private donors, we wouldn't exist, because there is two things. First of all, when you plan and when you do a wetland, and when you run it, when you're digging it, that's one cost. But if you are applying for funding for making a wetland, I would say that in 99 cases out of 100 you will get a no, because if you don't have the funds to run it, then it will get a no. Then it will be a hole or something that is dug out, and then year 2 it looks the same again. So that's very important. It's the start funding is a key factor for getting the other fund, and vice versa. And I also think that there has to be a balance between private funding and public funding,
right?
Because the municipality and other organizations, they usually don't want to finance our projects with 100%. They want us to come with our own money. So that's where BE WTR comes in, to help us to do what we would like to do, the initiatives that we want to do, and also to guarantee that we have a 10 or 15-year-long plan ahead, that we're in this for long term.
That's really interesting to say, and just to reiterate on that, so it's both about getting the project sort of started off its ground, so to speak, but the big challenge is having it run year after year, and because you do have a long-term plan with this, right?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, at UTÖ now, or the 3 wetlands that we are running at UTÖ, we know for sure that they are going to be. We're able to run them for another 15 years, which is a result of our work and our generous fund donors and so on. So that's fantastic, and which leads that the public sector, they trust us now. They know that we're doing the right thing, and we are now in a stage where they address us with projects that might be done. What do you guys think? Could you maybe leave UTÖ and look at this place? Which is fantastic, and that wouldn't have been the cause if we haven't had the balance and the fortune of the private funding here. Well,
and it also means you have to have long-term relationships, right? Long-term partnerships. It's not just a one-off thing. Emilia, I know the way you engage with different initiatives is not just this one-off payment, or you're sending something from somewhere around the world that you don't see. It's very much a local thing that you want to engage in hands-on, right?
It is. Of course, it's always good to donate funds, but if you want also to grow the engagement within the company, if you want to actually use this to grow your own company culture, it's also important to be in the project and to work hands-on. So me and the team, I sent you a photo, but I don't think you put it where
No, we
you
don't
saw
have that yet, no.
where you saw our team working in the wetlands. So what we do is that we go out twice a year to you guys.
Yeah.
We bring our team, and for a whole day, from sort of dusk to dawn, we are there.
Yeah.
I like to wish that we are actually helping you.
Yeah, you are.
You have to say that now
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we're on stage.
Yeah, but I'm honest. You
yeah,
are.
yeah, I knew you would say that. But we carry fish. We sort of take down the reed. We do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And everybody's sort of complaining about the hard work, but they love it. And then they put it on social media and they talk about it with their families. In every sales meeting we go to, we tell about our engagement. So it's something very vivid for both me and everybody working for BE WTR, which I think is great and important.
Just to stay on that, what do you think that means for your team and company culture and how, you know, just even recruitment of new employees? Does this matter to have this type of engagement in?
I mean, no matter what sort of service or information you take part of today, you see that especially the new generation isn't interested in going into work in companies where there is no engagement. So I think it's important also to attract and keep new talent, of course. And that's another thing that we see as well.
Well, I think that goes into the sort of headline for Initiativ UTÖ that we saw here in your presentation, Robert. Sustainability in practice, and that's always one of the things that I really liked about Initiativ UTÖ, that you're actually doing things. You and your co-founder Thomas, when I meet you out there on the island, sometimes you're always coming with the saws and the picks and the shovels, and you're there digging and you're doing it yourselves. How important is that for you guys? And talk about this sustainability in practice.
I think that it's absolutely crucial because why? A question that you haven't asked me is why I'm in this? Why am I in this? Well, it's because that when I was a little child, I have a strong. I remember when the Baltic Sea was clean. I used to swim there and sail there, and I lived my life there, and I still live my life there. But now I have kids, and soon they will have kids. And if you look at it from a grid perspective, it's so huge that you cannot deal with it. But then if you take a step back and back down, okay, so what can I do in my bay? That's where it all starts. And that's where we decided that we will make the first wetland, and then the second, and then the third. And we can see the results. Which means that we can see this in practice, we can see this in real. We can go down every morning now in April and May and count every perch or pike that wanders up. And when we see from year to another that there's 10 more and 10 more, then we can see that we are really making a difference. And that is, for me, sustainability in practice. That is really, because sustainability it's a buzzword. Everybody talks about sustainability. But in my book, this is really what it's all about.
We're going to get back to how you want to scale this work with the wetlands, because it's not just local. You want to bring it outside of the island in UTÖ. But Emilia, I want to get back to you and talk a little bit more about the way you work with different projects. And there's this sort of locality to it that's really important. And you're not only supporting Initiativ UTÖ, you're supporting other initiatives as well. Can you talk about that throughout the Nordics?
Yes, we are also supporting Green Kayak, which is a Danish organization, and John Nurminen Foundation in Finland. And as we said, the local engagement and commitment is super important for us wherever we are. However, Initiativ UTÖ is very close to my heart, and you were lucky enough to also greet the Royal Princess of Sweden in August, I think it was. She came to the project. And when my team saw that, everybody said sort of, we were there first. We were there before the king and his princess.
Yeah.
So I think, it's all about engagement. It's all about feeling that this is an important part and we're making a difference.
Yeah. So let's talk about from this perspective of the consumer also, which I think is interesting. And we saw all these innovations that BE WTR is sort of going to market with now that Mike told us about. How important is this for the consumer, do you think? Do they care at all that a company is engaging in different initiatives, or does it matter? Is it part of your company profile?
Do you care when you buy something?
I care.
Yeah.
For
You
sure.
think it's different for others?
I
No, I don't think so. I think everybody cares. And it gets more and more important. And again, I mean, with the new generation, they can't even imagine to buy stuff that's not sustainable or that's not engaged in a good cause. So I think we should all learn from the new generation as well.
Robert, from your perspective, we've talked about how you engage with public organizations, private businesses. When communicating with the sort of public, perhaps locally on UTÖ, how important is it to gain that sort of attraction and engagement from the locals?
Well, I would say it's without it you cannot exist. I think it's so important that you keep the communication going to stop rumors. What are you digging here? What are you doing there? Everybody has to feel that they are in it and they are proud of, because we are UTÖ citizens, and we want UTÖ citizens to be proud of what happens at UTÖ. It's a fantastic place, so it's very, very important. And if you scale that up, I think it's important to sort of communicate the thought of that one person can't do everything, but one person can do something.
Right.
And that is what I am representing and we are representing. It's act local. That's really what it's all about.
Just briefly before we close up here, Robert, very local project. You have 3 wetlands now on UTÖ. I know you're working on more, but there's another thing that you mentioned that was really interesting, is that there's kind of like a consulting model around this. You want to spread the word around how you do this to others, and you mentioned this playbook.
Yeah.
What can you say about that, and how are you bringing that out into the world?
Well, the playbook, it's more of an advisory model, but it's a model that we can use and that we are happy to share and help others, landowners or countries or public organizations, because from identifying to planning to getting permissions to do it in the right way and to run it and how to use it as a research platform. I mean, there's a KTH in any country so that you can make something out of it. Because we think that this way, the way we do it, that's the way to do it. We cannot sort of pump up the sediment from the whole Baltic Sea. Maybe we can, but we haven't found it out that yet. But if we can make many thousand, from 3 to 3,000, or multiply it by 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, then we can make difference that really can make a big difference for our sea, for the Baltic Sea. So that is really what's in my mind. That is why we have this playbook idea, this model.
So there's a lot to navigate to realizing a project like this and trying to spread that word to others.
Really.
Emilia, finally, to any other entrepreneur, business leader listening to this who perhaps isn't engaged in an initiative like the 1% Pledge, or what's your recommendation? Where should one start in trying to sort of refocus your business and your organization into engaging like this?
It's a very good question. I think you should always sort of sit down and ask yourself, what is the cause that is very close to your core, to your heart? What do you want to engage in? And when you have laid out that strategy, I think you start to investigate, you look for partners. And that's a bit like dating, right? You need to go on a lot of dates before you find the one that's right for you. And I think a great tip when you are looking for an organization, there are always umbrella associations in each market. If you want to make sure that you find sort of a serious actor, then you have like 1% for the planet, where you can go in and they make sure, because they have put their stamp on it, that it's a serious organization. And then you start the collaboration, and as all relationships, it needs time to find its form. I think you need to be engaged with more than just money. You need to sort of put your heart in it as well.
Emilia Molin, Managing Director of BE WTR, and Robert Cederlund, co-founder of Initiativ UTÖ, thank you so much for sharing your insights here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have listened to the Water Innovation Talks. This podcast is a part of Changemakers, a series of podcasts, panel talks, and live interviews produced in collaboration with the Swedish participation at Expo 2020 Dubai. Don't forget to sign up to our newsletter to stay updated on the latest news and learn about upcoming talks and events. Visit scandinavianmind.com/newsletter.